It's all quiet in the underground bunker. Doors closed, locks bolted. But the Great One isn't just resting on his laurels. He's making sure your weekend is even better by giving you his best. This is the best of Mark Levin.
More discussion about tariffs. Well, in the end, this is going to be a good thing. Not tariffs per se, but his whole package. And now we see over 50 countries contacted the United States to try and work out some kind of deal. And you know, here's the thing. By the time President Trump is done, we may have a situation where most of the industrialized world is not tariffing each other. That's a pretty damn good thing, too. But I've gotten tremendous feedback from my opening statements on Saturday and Sunday on Fox, as well as here, people wanting copies. So we post them on social media. And if you want to check them out, they are there. But before I get into some of these heavy issues, and I do want to get into them, there's something here I want to take a look at. Where did I put the damn thing? Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. It's not there. All right, it is mislabeled, I'm afraid. It is the Gateway Pundit on what's going on in the Islamic megacity near Dallas, Mr. Producer. And let me see. Maybe it's this one. Nope. We'll see if we can find it. But I want to get into this a little bit. And we can talk about it later as well. That is during the course of the week. Because outside of Plano, Texas, and maybe it's in the edge of Plano, Texas, some Islamists have bought hundreds and hundreds of acres of land, and they intend to make an Islamic city. Let me know if you ever find it, Rich. Okay, here we go. There we go. Thank you, buddy. So I want to read this to you. No, it's the same one. Islamists found guilty of targeting U.S. churches is what you keep sending me here. I don't know why we're not getting that. You know what? I'm going to move on. Once we figure it out, we'll figure it out. I'm definitely going to hit this subject, but we're getting the wrong... you got to look at the link, not just the title. All right, let's start here. Netanyahu in the Oval Office today with President Trump. This is the breaking news, I think, certainly in some respects. Let's go. Cut one, go.
And, of course, we also discussed Iran. Look, we're both united in the goal that Iran does not ever get nuclear weapons. If it can be done diplomatically in a full way, the way it was done in Libya, I think that would be a good thing. But whatever happens, we have to make sure that Iran does not have nuclear weapons. That's the end of my speech.
Mr. President, we're having direct talks with. Wait. We're having direct talks with Iran, and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with if they can avoid it. So we're going to see if we can avoid it. But it's getting to be very dangerous territory. And hopefully those talks will be successful. And I think it would be in Iran's best interest if they are successful. We hope that's going to happen.
Here's what I don't understand. Why does anybody think it's going to happen? Why does anybody think that they're not going to lie and cheat? This is what they've done for over a decade. And they've even done it to the United Nations, their buddies. I don't understand why we think they're going to change their stripes or their spots, whichever. These are Islamo-Nazi terrorists. They have invested an enormous amount of effort into building nuclear weapons. And one warhead can blow one city off the face of the earth in this country. And that's the truth. And they're very good at rope-a-dope. Now, I've heard it said, it's being said, Mr. Levin, is trying to draw America into a war. Have you heard that, Mr. Producer? I'm being singled out. Mark Levin wants to draw America into a war. No, I want to save America from nuclear annihilation. I don't believe in drawing people into wars and so forth. I believe in prudence looking at this. You've got freaks and fools and reprobates out there who are, even today, posting about we can't afford to go to war with Iran. We'll lose God knows how many, especially because of the tariff. These are propagandists. These are morons. They're ideologues. I'm not any of these things. I'm a realist. And it's funny, the people who push this crap claim that they believe in a realist foreign policy. What's realist about Iran getting nuclear weapons and then pretending they can't blackmail us and threaten us and seek their 72 virgins by blowing, say, L.A. or New York or Chicago or Philadelphia or Detroit off the face of the earth? I don't get it. You know, in the last 100 years, 100 million people have been sacrificed to various ideologies. Marxism, Hitlerism, Islamism, 100 million people. Are we so conceited that we think that we're in the United States, there's two oceans, and they dare not attack us because they may get blown off the face of the earth? Has it ever occurred to anybody that maybe that's the way they want to go out? I mean, seriously, folks, you have an Islamo-Nazi regime that has been backing terrorism for over half a century, that has been killing Americans, maiming Americans for over half a century, that has backed terrorist organizations, that has been killing and maiming Americans, that has sought to assassinate our president, former Secretary of State, former National Security Advisor, and others. And you and I are supposed to sit here dumbfounded, like it's not possible that they might launch a nuclear missile to hit us. I'm not willing to take that chance. And that's why I speak out. It's not a matter of dragging America in a war. If this were to happen, the truth is the brunt of the battle would be on Israel. It would be on Israel, not on the United States. They're right there in the neighborhood. They would probably have to carry out much of the attack. Their people are in harm's way. Right now, we're not. The Iranians have no way of reaching us right now. So this talk about trying to drag America into a war is disgusting. And I'm sick and tired of the anti-Semites hiding behind these different bromides and shibboleths, and they pretend they're pro-American. How can you be pro-American if you think it's okay for the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran to have a nuclear weapon? How can you be pro-American? They want to destroy the West, and they keep talking about us. Their little Hitler youth in the streets, they're burning more American flags than they are Israeli flags. I'm sick and tired of this double life some of these commentators live, where they pretend they're pro-American, America first, when they seem to be Iran first, Qatar first, Russia first, Communist China first. Am I missing something, Mr. Producer? No, I don't think so. Russia is a fascistic regime with imperial desires. Communist China is our greatest threat. It is a Maoist regime with a massive military now. You don't build a massive military just because you want to sit around and pick your nose. No. You don't build a massive military because you want to invade an island nation right off your coast. No. You don't need hypersonic missiles, killer satellites, 350 Navy ships, nuclear subs, aircraft carriers, and on and on and on to beat Taiwan. You just don't. And nobody's bothering Iran. The only reason Iran gets hit is as a counterattack. Nobody's seeking any territorial gain over Iran. Nobody's doing anything to Iran. Iran is doing everything to everybody else. Look what it's done to the people of Yemen. Look what it's done to the people of Lebanon. Look what it's done to the people in Gaza. Look what it's done to the people in Israel. Look what it's doing to the people in Iraq. And you and I are supposed to sit here with our thumb up our nose and pretend if we notice this, and if this regime is desperately trying to get nuclear weapons, keeps threatening the United States, that we're supposed to sit here and say, no, that's not true. And if somebody notices it and has a big platform and says they cannot get this weapon, that Levin's trying to drag us into a war. Not the Islamo-Nazis, not the terrorists, not the enemy, me. I'm trying to drag us into a war. Let me tell you something. It's not a matter of me dragging anybody into anything. We have enemies. They are evil. That's the way it is. That's the way it's always going to be. People who run around with the dumbest of labels and the fortune cookie mindset about never wars and all that, that's all well and good. If you're trying to get clicks and subscriptions and all the rest of it, that's fantastic. But when you're looking down the barrel of the enemy's gun, it is what it is. Donald Trump understands this. He says Iran must not get a nuclear weapon. Why does he say that? He doesn't say it about anybody else. Why does he say that about Iran? Because he knows that they're terrorists. And he knows that they're capable of using these weapons. And he certainly doesn't want it to happen on his watch. What does he know that these reprobates don't know? What do I know that they don't know? The answer is they're ideologues. They've been brainwashed. They've been brainwashed by the Soroses and the Kochs. They've been brainwashed by the isolationists. They've been brainwashed. They have persuaded themselves into the stupidity of their position. And many of them, simply put, are Jew haters. Not everybody who opposes, but some of the biggest mouths definitely are. Definitely are. But this isn't even about Jews. It's bigger than Israel. A hypersonic intercontinental ballistic missile with a nuclear warhead is not intended for the neighborhood. And it just so happens, as President Trump knows, we don't have an iron shield. It was Reagan's idea. The Israelis ran with it. We did not. Thank you, Democrats, as usual. We have no protection against an intercontinental ballistic missile with a nuclear warhead. The Israelis do, because they took the idea and they ran with it. And by the way, they've given us their technology, their advanced technology. If we are to build an Iron Dome, we can thank the Israel. What do we get from Israel? Well, that's one of the things we're going to get from Israel. But again, that aside, President Trump has made clear he's no neocon. He's no warmonger. He's made abundantly clear they cannot have a nuclear weapon. I don't care what the Lilliputians think. Scratching at his door, knocking at his door, trying to get little meetings with him, putting stuff on social media to draw attention to themselves and to their issue. We know who these pukes are. We know who they are. They do not have America's interest, not at all. First, second, or anywhere on the list.
Mark Levin. Making your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
I'll tell you what's interesting. Tariffs or no tariffs, most of the reporting on tariffs is done from the perspective of newsrooms, the perspective of Capitol Hill, the perspective of Washington, D.C., or New York, or L.A., and so forth and so on. Not from the perspective of fishermen, farmers, ranchers, and so many others who are praising the tariffs. Again, whatever your view on tariffs, it just shows you how government-centric and city-centric the media are in this country. It just goes to show you. And something's happening now that you see. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, that of course the critics never anticipated, which is now we have over 70 countries knocking on the door of the United States trying to negotiate deals on these tariffs. Trump is always underestimated as a deal maker, always underestimated. Look, you don't always have to agree with him. I don't always agree with him, but the fact of the matter is we've never seen anything like this. We just have never seen anything like this. And we will find out how this turns out by looking back. But I think it's going to turn out pretty well. As long as he keeps the pro-growth agenda, and he clearly is committed to it. Apparently there are people on Capitol Hill, the old rhinos and the ruling class republics. Hey, I have an idea. What? What if we just increase taxes on the rich a little bit and not... See, this is what Reagan would not accept. The Marxist pablum. The class warfare crap. I spent time over the weekend and spent time here talking about the real figures when it comes to Trump's first tax cuts and the impact on the various tax brackets. And the fact is, all this talk about tax cuts for billionaires, the billionaires got the least of it. Now, you might think that's great. I don't much care. My point is not to screw people, not to attack successful people, not to attack American businesses, which affects our employees and our industrial heartland and all the rest of it. I want America to succeed, not part of America, not some Marxist class that's set up as part of America. I want all Americans to do well. Maybe there's a billionaire industry out there that creates life-saving drugs. So why should they be taxed more? I'm just saying. It just doesn't make any sense to me. We have the highest corporate income tax rates in the free industrial world. We have higher corporate income tax rates than they have in communist China. How does that help America? How does that help the employees of these companies? How does that help investors, those of you who have IRAs? And it doesn't help you at all. The Democrats do this because not only are they of the Marxist class warfare variety, but they do this because it's propaganda to get you worked up and get you upset while they screw you. That's the bottom line. I told you, this battle is not between the rich and the poor and this class and that class. This battle is between the ruling elite, the establishment, and we the people. That's what this battle is about. That's the battle that's taking place right now in all sectors of our country. Whether it's the government, whether it's the private sector, whether it's the border, the battle is between the ruling class and we the people. It's not an economic battle based on Marxist class warfare models. It is an American battle between American Marxists who have, and I call them American Marxists, who have sort of tailor-made, Americanized Marxism. That's what it is. Now, I wrote a whole book on it, so I'm not going to waste your time about it here. Now, let's talk about the courts. Thank God for our Supreme Court, and let me be more specific. 4 members of the court in particular. John Roberts has been carrying his weight. He deserves kudos for it. But there's 4 who've never bent. Clarence Thomas, Sam Alito, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh. They do not bend. They understand the Constitution. They understand how it's supposed to work. They understand that the judges under them are not supposed to run the country. We'll have nothing but anarchy mixed with tyranny. That's what we'll have. And I just want to underscore the fact that this is not what our Constitution provides for. This is not what was debated in Philadelphia. This is not what was debated in the state capitals at the state ratification conventions. There's not a single delegate, well, maybe one, Hamilton, but really not any. And not a single in the states ratifier who would have agreed to a constitution that empowered judges, single judges, to conduct themselves this way. And the only fallback the legal analysts on TV have is Marbury versus Madison in 1803, which was a bogus decision. You read your Constitution. Read it. It's short. You will not find judicial review. They call it an implied power. Wait a minute. Does the Constitution talk about implied powers? No, the Constitution talks about expressed powers. Expressed powers. Stay with me. Now, there's a clause, Clause 18, in Article 1 of the Constitution. The necessary and proper clause, we call it. Section 8. Necessary and proper clause. And so you know what the elastic clause. The elastic clause. You know what elastic does. Necessary and proper. So Congress has the power to pass laws that they believe are necessary and proper. That's not what it says. Congress doesn't have carte blanche, can pass laws on anything they want. There's nothing elastic about the clause. The whole Constitution is built and constructed in a certain mindset. Necessary and proper has nothing to do with carte blanche and creating legislation. It means that Congress, or for that matter the executive, have the power to use the means necessary and proper to uphold a specific delegated power that they've been granted under the Constitution. The means, the necessary and proper means to uphold the Constitution, to exercise their delineated authority. To read it any other way is to destroy the entire construct of the Constitution. Separation of powers, balance of power, the 10th Amendment and federalism later, which was added by the first Congress, and they took that very seriously. It would mean that there's no restraint on Congress. It's like judicial review, where Marshall, the Chief Justice, claimed that the Supreme Court had judicial review. He didn't use the phrase, but that's what he said. An implied power. It's implied. I mean, if the court has the power to make decisions, that is, to look at the various disputes, it has to have the power to make a final determination. But that's not what the Constitution says. It says nothing about such an implied power. It says nothing about judicial review. Nothing. And so these two things alone, the claim that Congress has implied powers, basically to legislate on anything it wants, is a lie. And number two, that the Supreme Court has the implied power to have the final decision, as another lie. Now, that's the way it's worked out. That's what's happening. But it's a lie. Now, Mark, why are you getting into all this history? Number one, I like it. Number two, I think you'll like it. But number three, it applies to these district courts. In the case of Marbury, we're talking about a Supreme Court. Congress passes the Judiciary Acts, as it has throughout our history, and creates these courts. The idea that a single judge in Washington, D.C., or Seattle, Washington, or Boston, Massachusetts, or Providence, Rhode Island, or Manhattan in New York, or you decide, can issue an edict like a dictator, not only outside his or her district, but apply it to the entire nation and impose it on a president under threat of contempt, is so outrageous. It is so incongruous with the Constitution of the United States. It's appalling. And we literally have three Supreme Court justices, the radical Democrats, the Three Stooges on the left, and Barrett, who don't see it that way. Barrett uses sort of procedural arguments, sleight of hand, to throw in with the libs. But it is what it is. And the fact is that she's not only unreliable, she's becoming more reliable for the left. I warned you about her before anybody else, right here behind this microphone. Now people are wringing their hands. Great. Where were they 3 years ago? Nowhere. We have led this battle, you and me, behind this microphone, and then on Fox and on Blaze, to get these courts under control. And I've done it, not because I have power to do it, but because it's the power of argument. It's the power of explanation. It's the power of history. That is the strength of talk radio. That is the strength of having the platforms that I use. The power to explain and persuade and to encourage activists among the people, judges and justices who take an oath to do their jobs. That's why free speech is so important and why the left hates it. That's why this format of conservative talk radio is so important, which is why the left has constantly tried to put it out of business. But this program reaches all over the world and every corner of the country. The media put out this phony magazine, Talkers Magazine, their phony list, I should say. And they even say, we're not sure, it's based on our experience. Bullcrap. This show is either the biggest or the second biggest in the world. Our weekend show on Fox is a powerhouse. It is. We go up against March Madness. We go up against Sunday Night Football. We go up against it, baby, because we're on 8 p.m. Eastern time, Saturday and Sunday. Pounding. We make our case. And if it wasn't for you and other Americans, patriotic Americans, concerned about this country, concerned about your family, protecting your faith, I wouldn't be here, would I? No, I wouldn't. This should give you a lot of hope. Now, we don't rest on our laurels. These battles are constant. I love these people who say, end the never wars. Here's the problem. The never-ending wars are never-ending for a reason. Often that's because of the incompetence of a commander-in-chief or the imprudent decisions of a commander-in-chief. But let's not fool ourselves. The battle between good and evil will never end. Those of you who are of faith, regardless of your faith, you know this to be true. It's in the Torah, it's in the Bible, it's in the Quran. The battle against evil is never ending. It's a never-ending war. That's what it is. When you have modern-day secularists or buffoons who have microphones, who have platforms, who go on and on and on telling you that all we need to do is be quiet. All we need to do is back off. All we need to do is not be this or not be that. They don't understand good versus evil. Because if they're right, evil will cover this planet and there'll be no pushback.
Mark Levin. You're listening to the best of Mark Levin.
I have to say, you're watching Genius. No, not me. I'm talking about the president. And so a few hours ago, he says, you know what, I'm going to put a 90-day hold on these tariffs. I'll just leave them at a 10% baseline, except for Communist China. Communist China's now slapped another 84% tariff on us. I will slap another 125% on them. He has effectively isolated Communist China from the rest of the world and, of course, from us. At the same time, he says, I know Xi, I get along with him, he's a very smart guy, so forth and so on. I mean, This man really is a brilliant, more than dealmaker, strategist. And so basically you have now, and the Democrats are taking credit for this pullback, but of course they take credit for everything. They've been so helpful, haven't they? What exactly have they done? What have they done? On their watch, this was all perfectly fine. So what did Trump do? He's changed everything in a period of a week. In a period of a week, he's changed everything. We now have countries, I'm told over 70, maybe over 100, but definitely over 70, who've come to the United States and have said, we want to do trade deals with you, tariff deals with you. We agree. We want them to be more fair, more equitable. It would never have happened. Period. Never have happened. And these tariffs have been in place, 14 minutes? But you get my point. A very truncated, very short period of time. And he forced all these countries to come, and he even said during his press conference today, he said, we need the 90 days to deal with all these countries coming to us so we can make some smart deals. They won't all be the same. And we not only want to get this tariff thing more equitable, but we want to get our balance of trade back in order. And so a 90-day freeze at 10%, except for China, which he whacks with 125%. Now, China can keep playing this game. The truth is, their economy is about two-thirds the size of our economy. Their economy relies heavily on exports. Ours does not rely heavily on exports. And he's got a plan to grow the economy, and we're going to get into that more in a moment as well. So these tariffs haven't even been in place that long. And he's pulled them back. 10% across the board minimum is what he's put in place as we negotiate with these other countries that have very high tariffs on us. The Democrats never squealed a word about the tariffs that foreign countries have placed on us. I mentioned this the other day, and now the conga line of plagiarists, verbal plagiarists, are out there repeating it. But it's true. They still don't really talk about it. We talk about it. President Trump talks about it. Now, I understand that China, I think I heard some experts say today, or I read today, really about 20% of their economy is linked to ours. That doesn't even make any sense. How do you even know that? We have vibrant economic activity, including trade, exports, imports, but the whole world. So if we decide to do something, it's not just a matter of how it affects China directly. It can affect China indirectly. That's the nature of economics. The point is, China can't win that battle. It cannot win the battle against the United States economically. And I feel that Donald Trump saw what Reagan did to the Soviet Union. Maybe I'm overstating it, but I don't think so. He's got a portrait of Reagan hanging in the Oval Office. I know he thinks about him, not because he slobbers all over the portrait, because he sees he was an incredibly successful president. There are others he likes. He likes Andrew Jackson. He likes William McKinley. But Reagan. And he's trying to slash taxes significantly. And he wants that bill passed, and he talks about it. And we'll get into that, too. We have the clip of him telling that to the National Republican Congressional Committee and their members and their donors. But what's happened today is really remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. And Schumer's here, dobbling up and down, taking credit for it. He blinked. It's because, and then he blinked. Nobody blinks at Schumer. Nobody. I mean, AOC's thinking about running against him. I suspect she will in the Democrat primary. It's not blinking. Maybe they have something in their eye, but they're not blinking over him. I can promise you that. We Democrats, we succeeded. You succeeded at what? He's going to get these other countries to reduce their tariffs. He's going to get a more level playing field so we can actually have a really significant free market. He's going to He's going to help create wealth in this country. Every single Democrat, maybe one, but I doubt it, every single Democrat will vote against his tax package, as they all voted against his budget package. And then they'll take credit for any of the benefits that take place, right? That's what they do. Because they're disgusting. But it's a big day, what he did. Here he was outside the White House today. Let's get cut one ready, please. And this is this morning. Cut one, go.
Just a few hours later, there was a pause put in on the tariffs. Can you walk us through your thinking about why you decided to put a 90-day pause?
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know. They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions. Because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents. They wouldn't have done it. And it had to be done. What was happening to us on trade, not only with, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was by far the biggest abuser in history, and others also. But somebody had to do it. They had to stop because it was not sustainable. Last year, China made $1 trillion off trade with the United States. That's not right. And now I've reversed it. It's for a short period of time, but we made $2 billion. We're making now $2 billion a day. And somebody had to do it. Roger actually said it. Charles Schwab was here a little while ago, one of the great financial people, and he said he's been waiting for 40 years for somebody to do what I did over the last month. And if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have a country. It wouldn't be sustainable. So I'm honored to have done it. And, look, nothing's over yet, but we have a tremendous amount of spirit from other countries, including China. China wants to make a deal. They just don't know how quite to go about it. It's one of those things they don't know how quite. They're proud people. And President Xi's a proud man. I know him very well, and they don't know quite how to go about it, but they'll figure it out. They're in the process of figuring it out, but they want to make a deal. And we have many other countries, as you know, many more than 75, and they all want to come. And they want to come here, or they'll go to Commerce, or they'll go to Treasury. We have our great senators here and congressmen. They'll call John, they'll do somebody, they'll go through somebody, but they're all calling, how do we do this? They all want to make a deal. Somebody had to do what we did, and I did a 90-day pause for the people that didn't retaliate, because I told them if you retaliate, we're going to double it. And that's what I did with China, because they did retaliate.
And that's going to hurt China, because their economy is already hurting. And that's fine by me. When you use economics rather than bullets, it's a good thing. And Reagan showed the way. Trump is now showing the way. I think it would be well for people, our friends at National Review, the Wall Street Journal editorial page, but not just them, others, to actually try and comprehend what the guy's doing, rather than fall back on shibboleths and knee-jerk reactions. Because I'm trying to understand it, and as I think it through, a lot of this makes sense to me. It just does. And the hollowing out of our industrial sector needs to be turned around for national security reasons at a minimum. We can't build ships anymore. We build 10 ships a year. 10. The communist Chinese are building 1,000 ships a year. 1,000. We're building 10. We have on order 10 new naval ships, only 4 of which can actually be built in a period of a year or two. Our naval yards are shut down. The Philadelphia Naval Yard, I grew up in Philadelphia, one of the great naval yards. It doesn't do anything anymore. And all those men and women who were so trained, I mean, it's tough to build a ship. It's not so simple. Well, people have to be retrained now. They're not around anymore. And so these things have to be done. It's unfortunate. I think people are going to look back on this and be really amazed that you lived through this era, that you lived through this period. The big difference between the 1930s and now, and I say this to all my friends out there, is Donald Trump's not a socialist. Franklin Roosevelt was. So while tariffs were in place, and they were put in place by Republicans, Coolidge, Hoover, while they were in place, the fact is the Depression was caused, as Milton Friedman has said, by monetary policy that tightened the dollar, the availability of the dollar, by a third, contracted the availability of money by 1/3. So they took a recession and turned it into a depression. And on top of that, it lasted 10 years because FDR was a socialist. He massively raised taxes. The highest rate was 90%, for crying out loud. He was redistributing wealth. He was trying to change our constitutional construct, and he succeeded in many respects. Trump's not a socialist. He's a capitalist. A businessman who built things. He didn't just move money around like Soros. He actually built things. He developed things. He created things. So he wants a massive tax cut, massive regulatory cuts, slash the size of the federal government, slash the bloat in the bureaucracy, so that he has a massive growth agenda on top of this tariff effort, in which, as of tonight, shows absolute genius. Now, this thing has to play out. We all know that. But as of tonight, absolute genius.
Mark Levin. The Great One makes your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
Iran. Oh, Mark, we're so sick and tired of Iran. Well, you won't be sick and tired of it if we hit them and that becomes the big news. Plus, you in this audience, you're smart. You understand what we're talking about here. I want you to listen to what the President of the United States said today. He's signing executive orders, and he was asked about Iran. Come Saturday, I think this guy, Steve Witkoff, is the lead negotiator. I hope he knows what he's doing. Just saying. Time will tell. Maybe he does. That would be a great thing. But I take confidence in knowing that Donald Trump does know what he's doing. And he calls the shots, and he's the bottom line. So take a listen to this. Cut 5, Mr. Producer. Go.
In terms of certainty, we will see what China does, but what I am certain of,
No. Stop, please. Stop. It's Trump at the White House today. Do we not have that?
Do you want something definitive this weekend, or do you see this as the start of a process?
It's a start.
Do you have a timeline?
We have a little time, but we don't have much time.
Who is starting?
Because we're not going to let them have a nuclear weapon.
Is it going to be there, Mr. President?
And we're going to let them thrive. I want them to thrive. I want Iran to be great. The only thing they can't have is a nuclear weapon. They understand that. You know, the people are so incredible in Iran, and they're so smart. They're very smart people. But you know, they're in a rough situation, rough regime. But they understand, and the leaders understand. And I'm not asking for much. I don't. They can't have a nuclear weapon, and I've said that. And I was a little bit surprised because when the election was rigged, I figured they'd get the weapon because with me they were broke. They were broke. They had no money because of the sanctions. Nobody could buy oil. We did that to Venezuela just recently, and we'll do it to other countries if we have to. I want to see Russia and Ukraine make a deal. They got to make a deal. When schools get blown up and bad things happen, like I'm hearing about, it's no good. I hope we're going to make a deal with Russia and Ukraine. But with Iran, if it requires military, we're going to have military. Israel will obviously be very much involved in that. He'll be the leader of that. But nobody leads us. We do what we want to do.
When would the talks need to conclude before you might do military?
I can't really be specific, but you know, when you start talks, you know if they're going along well or not. And I would say the conclusion would be when I think they're not going along well. So that's just a feeling.
So logical, no? And what really hurt us in this regard is the Biden regime in how they helped fund the Iranian nuclear program and helped that regime survive. I assume those among us who are the isolationists who call anybody who calls out Iran a warmonger, I guess they supported the Biden administration's position on Iran. I guess they supported the Obama administration's position on Iran. So now Donald Trump's view and mine are identical. So is he a warmonger? Is he trying to drag us into a war? I'm just curious about this. Yet people run around and say they're Trump supporters, and yet they're not. Their foreign policy views are not his foreign policy views. Again, he's prudential, not ideological, and that's the way you need to be when it comes to foreign policy. And so I would ask these folks, they know who they are, I know who they are, is Donald Trump a warmonger too? You think he's being forced into this position? Does somebody force Donald Trump into a position? So now they're going to attack his character and his intelligence? I'm quite serious. These people aren't Trump supporters. They're sometimes Trump supporters, but they're not really. They don't support Trump's foreign policy. They support George Soros' foreign policy. They support Charles Koch's foreign policy. They don't support Donald Trump's foreign policy. Donald Trump's foreign policy is not as they say. Peace through strength. That's Reagan's foreign policy and Trump's foreign policy. Trump has done more to build up NATO. You have these idiots. Oh, let's pull out of NATO. Have they even been to Europe? Have they even seen where these battles were fought? Do they even know what happened in Europe in World War II? Do they know how many of our men died, bled to death, shot to pieces on European territory? And they would say, just give it up. Just give it up to whom? Oh, to the Europeans. Well, most of it was given up to the Europeans, so we have some bases. Is that a problem? Why is it a problem? Are we going to attack somebody? Are we the imperialists? Are we the colonialists? I wish one of these dumb bastards would come on this show and debate me. I really do. All they have to do is contact us. I'd like to know what it is that they're preaching. Because it's not the end of war. It's called peace through strength. And if they see weakness, you get war. Look at what Trump's doing with China on the tariffs. Should he not be doing it? Should he just back off? Is he going to provoke war with the communist Chinese? Is that what he's doing? When Donald Trump warns the Iranians over and over and over again that you better cut a deal that is verifiable, much like Libya, or we're going to hit you. Is he provoking war, or is he just stating the facts? No, he's not a warmonger. He's not a neocon. He's none of those things. He's trying to protect the United States. He's trying to protect you. These morons that go around, slick talkers, who bring on the most contemptible guests and go on as if Iran is our fault. As if Iran getting a nuclear missile is no big deal. As if us stopping Iran is the act of a warmonger president, I guess. That's ridiculous. Now I'm going to play this one more time because it's important. Let's key it up. Cut 25, Mr. Producer. I'm going to play it one more time so it's clear he's saying it. I'm not saying it. Go.
Do you want something definitive this weekend, or do you see this as the start of a process?
It's a start.
Do you have a timeline?
We have a little time, but we don't have much time.
Who is starting the
Because we're not going to let them have a nuclear weapon.
Is it going to be there, Mr. President?
And we're going to let them thrive. I want them to thrive. I want Iran to be great. The only thing they can't have is a nuclear weapon. They understand that. You know, the people are so incredible in Iran, and they're so smart. They're very smart people. But you know, they're in a rough situation, rough regime. But they understand, and the leaders understand. And I'm not asking for much. I don't, they can't have a nuclear weapon, and I've said that. And I was a little bit surprised because when the election was rigged, I figured they'd get the weapon because with me they were broke. They were broke. They had no money because of the sanctions. Nobody could buy oil. We did that to Venezuela just recently, and we'll do it to other countries if we have to. I want to see Russia and Ukraine make a deal. They got to make a deal. When schools get blown up and bad things happen, like I'm hearing about, it's no good. I hope we're going to make a deal with Russia and Ukraine. But with Iran, if it requires military, we're going to have military. Israel will obviously be very much involved in that. He'll be the leader of that. But nobody leads us. We do what we want to do.
Run out on the talks. When would the talks need to conclude before you might do military?
I can't really be specific, but when you start talks, you know if they're going along well or not. And I would say the conclusion would be when I think they're not going along well. So that's just a feeling.
So will the tough guys out there who talk about warmongers and neocons, are they going to attack the president now? He's the commander-in-chief. Is that what they're going to do? Are they going to attack Donald Trump? Are they going to call him a warmonger? Why not? You heard what he said. I played it twice. I almost never play anything twice. You heard what he said. Are they going to call him a warmonger? We will defend Donald Trump here. We will defend Donald Trump here because he's right about protecting the American people against Iran and any nuclear weapons. He's 100% correct. And as I've been saying, and I said as recently as last evening, Israel will take the brunt of any backlash from Iran. We won't. Israel will. And Israel will be doing us a great favor, along, of course, with our heroes, our military, in preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. This is to protect our generation, your children, and your grandchildren, and future generations. Sometimes you got to step up as a country. You've got to protect our country. You've got to protect future generations. I want you to think about a world in which your children and grandchildren, who you love with all your heart, are in constant fear of having nuclear missiles fired into this country by an Islamo-Nazi regime in Iran. And who knows who will lead that country next? Who knows if they'll not knock off one and some additional terrorists will take over that? Who knows? It's not a stable regime. It's a regime that's in control through torture and rape and the point of a gun. And the point of a gun. The president is correct. So all those isolationists out there, I want you to go on social media and I want you to post, the president is correct about what he said about Iran. Or say, the president is not correct about what he said about Iran. At least have the guts to expose yourselves. But they don't. They don't. They're so off on this, it's not even funny.
Mark Levin. We're giving you nothing but the best of Mark Levin.
Barak Ravid. If this is accurate, Iran wants to explore interim nuclear deal in talks with the U.S., sources say. Iran is considering proposing during talks with the United States Saturday that the two countries work on an interim nuclear agreement before pursuing negotiations over a comprehensive deal. A European diplomat and a source familiar with the issue thinking. Good, I guess Barak Ravid isn't particularly literate, told Axios why it matters. President Trump has set a 2-month deadline for negotiations with Iran on a new nuclear deal, and in the meantime ordered a buildup of U.S. military forces in the Middle East as another option if diplomacy fails. Why would we agree to this? To put it off? Isn't that the problem? They're looking for more time, and not a lot. And Trump's giving them a deadline. Let's have an interim plan. No interim plan. Dismantle your nuclear program. If a deal isn't reached, Trump could order a U.S. military strike against Iran's nuclear facilities or support an Israeli strike. So what's happening now is the anti-American, pro-Iranian mouthpieces, podcasters, subscription services, propagandists who go on social media and so forth, make videos of themselves. They're busy trying to lobby the White House, I'm sure. They're trying to lobby people who advise President Trump. They're trying to advise President Trump and lobby him and lobby J.D. Vance and others to tell them, no, don't do this, don't do this, no, don't do this. While you and I are watching this and know what the stakes are. We, Mr. and Mrs. America. Not this bunch of blockheads, this weird cabal of Soros, Koch, Quincy Institute, Insane Asylum Institute. The sources said the Iranians think reaching a complex and highly technical nuclear deal in 2 months is unrealistic, and they want to get more time on the clock to avoid an escalation. They want to get more time on the clock to finish what they started. The Iranians seem to believe that a sustainable deal is unlikely to be achieved in the time frame that President Trump has in mind. Folks, they've already been dragging their feet. Remember? No. That's like debating over the size of the table. We insist on an interim, not directly with the United States. We do this. This is the rope-a-dope that they've been doing and doing and doing. Might therefore be necessary to consider an interim agreement as a way station toward a final deal, says Ali Vaez, director of the Iran project to the International Crisis Group. The Iranian mission to the UN declined to comment. An interim deal, how would that stop the Iranians, an interim deal? Somebody just give me some, how would it stop the Iranians? In fact, what this suggests to me is they have no intention of stopping. An interim agreement between the U.S. and Iran could include, here we go, the mouthpiece, the propaganda from Ravid. Suspending some of Iran's nuclear enrichment activity, diluting its 60% enriched uranium stockpile, and allowing UN inspectors more access to Iran's nuclear facility. This is all the Obama crap. This is a redo. Experts told Axios these steps would only slightly increase Iran's timeline for developing a nuclear bomb, but they could help build trust for negotiations on a comprehensive deal. Now, what kind of a journalist writes experts told Axios? He went out and got so-called experts with whom he agrees, who told him what he wanted to hear. They could build trust for negotiations. I mean, my God, Joe Biden gave him over $100 billion directly and in lifting sanctions or not enforcing them. That didn't seem to build a whole lot of trust. It showed weakness. Could also involve extending the snapback mechanism that was part of the 2015 nuclear deal. That mechanism, which triggers UN Security Council sanctions against Iran if it violates the agreement, is set to expire in October. What are you talking about? So they're taking little bits and pieces, cherry picking from the Obama deal that Trump ripped up, that has brought us to the point we're at right now. Well, let's just do a little bit of that as an interim deal. Sure, let's be suckers. France, UK, Germany told Iran they're going to trigger the snapback sanctions if the new deal is not reached by the end of June. An interim agreement would likely also include a demand from Iran that Trump suspend his maximum pressure campaign on Iran's economy. So look what we'd be giving up. The maximum pressure campaign for an interim agreement when the Iranians do not honor any agreement. They're already in violation of the Obama agreement. That is the UN agreement. An Iranian proposal for an interim agreement could also further increase suspicion and skepticism in the Trump administration about Iranian leaders' intentions and whether they're trying to buy time without rolling back their nuclear program. White House envoy Steve Witkoff, who's been all over TV. Oh, yeah, a lot of my colleagues love him. Is going to hold talks with the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Abagayabadabadu on Saturday in Oman. While the U.S. still says the talks are going to be direct, the Iranians maintain the negotiations will be through the Omani mediator. See, they're already debating the size of the table. No. They're not direct. No. They're through Oman, the mediators. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. The other side, on Thursday, the former head of Iran's National Security Council, Yabba Dabba Doo, who's now a foreign policy advisor to the Supreme Islamo-Nazi, said that continued military threats against Iran may lead to deterrent measures. He suggested Iran could expel International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors. Those inspectors have not been able to inspect for at least 6 months. So now they're making threats. They're making threats. Don't pressure us. I don't know. I'd wash my hands of this regime and say, okay, you're on the clock. You come to us. You show us how you've been dismantling your program, or that's that. That's enough. You fooled enough American presidents. You fooled enough foreign prime ministers and presidents. You fooled the UN. That's enough. We're not fools. We know what you're doing. It ain't going to happen. You're not going to get a missile, and that's that. Why, Mark? Because we don't want a bunch of rabid genocidal fanatics with a nuclear weapon that can kill us. That's why. It seems like a rational defense, don't you think? Yeah, I think so. Matter of fact, I know so. I know there's a cabal of morons out there who... And the forever wars. Yeah, there have been forever wars. This would not be one of them. This would be the shortest war in the history of mankind. That's what a nuclear missile is all about. They're not conventional weapons. They're nuclear weapons. And so you wouldn't have a forever war. You'd have a quick war, and we'd be dead. Is that better? I'm just curious. No, it's not better. And now's the time to speak out, America. If you believe that America needs to defend itself before Iran gets a nuclear missile, that is, if you oppose Iran getting a nuclear missile, now's the time to speak out. Now's the time to go on social media. Now's the time to push back against the maniacs out there, the cabal, and their trolls who go on social media, and obviously don't care if the Iranians get a nuclear weapon or not. What is it our business? Oh, I don't know. An intercontinental ballistic missile with a warhead? Why would that be any of our business? In a country that's led by a bunch of fanatical maniacs? Why would that be any of our business? That tried to murder our president? Why would that be any of our business? Who've said that they want to destroy America and Western civilization? Why would that be any of our business? Good point out there. Yeah, that's a good point. And then the idiots say how many of our troops would die. Actually, more of the Israelis, they would die. That's right. We're not going to have ground troops there. The Israelis do. Oh, so Israel's going to drag us into a war. And you, right, Mike? Mike out there? You know who I mean, Mike? Warmonger. As I've said over and over again, they're the warmongers. We're the good guys. Why can't these fools get it straight? We're the good guys. They're the warmongers. We're the small d Democrats. They're the terrorists. Yes. We are not a bloodlust. They are. See the difference? Even senators can understand what I'm saying, I think. Right, Mike? Well, maybe not.